Hello and welcome to this episode of Health and Beauty Hacks. I'm your host, Mia Science. And in this episode, I get to interview JJ Flizanes. Did we say it right?
You did.
Yay! I'm just in awe of this woman because, and I'm really excited to have her here. Not only does she have, which she'll share with us, these very powerful, very well received, massive podcasts, but her whole body, mind, and spirit, from what I know about her, is really beautiful. That is who she is. And it even says it back there, behind her, which is really powerful. Just she loves that the body can heal. There's so much that we're going to jump into here. So I'm going to just bring you on in. Welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks, Mia. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you, honey. Will you share with us what got you into this? What turned you on to this line of work? You have a background story that brought you here. Would you like to share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. Very quickly. I mean, I've especially as a woman, as a girl, somewhat of a self-esteem issue growing up, because all you know is to compare yourself to other people. And so I never had a real issue in terms of like weight gain, too much weight gain, but I developed pretty early on, very quickly. I had hips and boobs before anybody else. And so I looked weird compared to the other girls, and dieted. Probably my first diet was when I was a teenager, 12, 13, 14, probably. Right. So you're concerned about how you look in a mirror. And that led me on a journey of self-care and exercise and fitness later in life. I always was a dancer, so I always had strong legs and muscular legs. Went to college, was taking a ton of dance classes. I was actually in musical theater, and noticing my boyfriend at the time was a gymnast and had this beautifully chiseled, very proportionate, balanced body. And it was like, wow, I had like skinny little scrawny arms and these really strong muscular legs. And it didn't look like balance. And it wasn't as much about how I looked. It was more about how I felt about myself.
Yeah.
So I journeyed on to the personal training world, learning science, opening up my brain to the fact that I'm actually pretty smart, and that I can learn science in this way, because I always thought of myself as someone who was expressive and more creative and artistic. And then I learned that I was actually more balanced brain, and that I could handle sciences provided they were mechanical and I could see them function in a real way versus just in sort of an ethereal way. Like it had to have structure to it. And so in my journey of working with people to help them with exercise and nutrition and weight loss and strengthening their bodies, just a curious Pisces with multi-Sag in me person who was like, there's something deeper. And this isn't like, just because like, and I just couldn't put my finger on it for a long time. My first book is called Fit to Love: How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life. And that book really just separates out that the energy underneath what we do dictates sort of what we attract and how it manifests. It's not the action, it's the energy underneath it. It's the why. So for instance, people would go to the gym and I could feel in the gym people hating themselves. I could feel that every step they took on the treadmill, they hated every minute of it, and they were shaming themselves and in self-loathing the entire time. And it was more intuitive. I never did that. Like I always got on and thought, God, I feel so much better. And I was that weird person who could see, I'm 21, concerned about my joint health. Why would I need to be concerned about my joint health? Was as I learned about science, I saw how everybody, as you get older and the things that you do in your life, they just like the brake pads on your car, your joint pads wear away. So we're constantly in a state of our body sort of breaking down as we age. And when you see that that's coming, I made choices now to slow that down and to maximize what happens in 30, 40, 50 years from now by the choices I make now. Because I would see people limping around and doing things, or, being unhealthy. And health is a journey and a habit, not an event. So it's not like one day you're going to wake up and just decide to eat greens and her whole health is going to turn around. Like your results are a culmination of everything you've done to this time. And while that shouldn't be a death sentence for anybody to feel badly about, oh my God, I've really abused my body and my health for so many years. The great news is you can turn it around tomorrow or even today, and it doesn't have to wait, and you don't have to continue to decline and to break down and to decompose, so to speak, and the body just show you your signs of aging. So I wrote Fit to Love as a dichotomy of, you can do self-care from a place of fear and hatred, or from a place of love and respect. And that's how I had manifested my marriage and my husband at the time. And that was sort of my story, because I wasn't that person that had some radical transformation. I was someone who was literally practicing seeing the future and making choices now based on what I wanted, and also doing it from a sense of, I have a very strong sense of integrity when it comes to doing something that's in alignment. And I didn't know that for a long, long time. I couldn't put my finger on the words to that. But as I have evolved, I now know that I don't do anything that is out of alignment with who I am. And when I am out of alignment, and I can feel it like the train off a track, it doesn't last that long. It sabotages, or at least I have a very small, very low tolerance for feeling bad emotionally, physically, mentally. And so, and I know I can heal anything. So if I like have something that comes up, a little pain, we got to work on that. Right. So the backstory really is that I've continued to evolve and deepen. And when I started my company, Invisible Fitness, it really started out as the joints. I have this mad thirst for, like, I love biomechanics. I love that my intellect got to shine in biomechanics. And a lot of trainers, no disrespect for trainers, but they're not taught this. And you have to actually want to learn it. You actually have to care enough to learn the sciences of how to do exercise and apply force to your joints in ways that support it and don't break it down faster. Most people just want to lose weight and look good. And so they'll beat themselves up for years until there's a problem. Well, I didn't have a problem. I just saw the problem coming. So I was like, okay, let's just do this now. And what I didn't know, the perfection of life, is that under Invisible Fitness, because it was about joints, I was like 21, 22 talking about joints. Who cares? Nobody else cares about joints. They're like, they don't care. If they're not injured, they don't care. But what happened was, the more I would learn, the more I would ask, the more I would see, the more people I would work with, I'd realize what's the deeper question? What other factors contribute to our lasting success, health, and vibrance? And of course, it went from, the joints to digestion, to the endocrine system, to meditation and mindset and emotional processing, astrology, law of attraction. It all fit so perfectly under my Invisible Fitness brand, and it still continues to today. I can take any subject and dive really deep. And I'll tell you what, I come out on the other end as a personal trainer for over 20 years. I'll tell you that it's all emotional. All of it. Yes, there are ways to better work your joint. There are ways to better eat. There are better ways to do better things. But I think whatever we want in life is because we think we'll feel better when we have it. And if we lead with feeling better, we make better choices, and we're interested in learning, and we want to know because we want to feel better and better and better. And we care about our health and our body. So that's sort of my backstory in the shortest amount of time I could probably give it to you.
Well, I love it, because now we know more about you, at least from this audience. You have a very large audience yourself. It's beautiful. And you talked about the law of attraction, and you talked about so much. This show, as you know, is about those hacks that get in there. What kind of hacks, where would you like to take our conversation? Because it's very vast. So I want it to be as rich as you'd like to bring it on.
Well, why don't we start by asking if you wanted to know from what I just said, like in one of those areas, right? Because what I've learned from the work and how I've changed how I work, I used to, I went from sort of marketing to people who wanted to be healthy and wanted to lose weight and wanted to change their diet and their exercise. But those people, when they come in from that level, aren't interested always in the deeper work. In fact, they resist it. That's why they do 20 diet programs. That's why they haven't figured out how to lose weight, because they haven't addressed the emotions underneath why they emotionally eat in the first place. But then when we go sometimes to spiritual stuff, they may not have the concrete habits that some of the people who take better care of themselves do. So it's, and some people, not everybody understands quantum physics or epigenetics. So, my mixture is, I do it all from here to here. My podcast listeners know that. So when they're ready and they reach out, I just address them where they are. And usually it's a combination of all of it. So in terms of a hack, like what is the quickest thing that you could do to change, let's say, just, I'll give you a free hack for the body that most people talk about, but, or two of them that people don't actually do. There's a difference between knowing it and doing it. Okay. Right. The first one is sleep. Sleep and rest. Okay. Sleep and rest. That means stop being a workaholic. Don't fool yourself into for the people that think, oh my God, I have to do that. And I have to do that. Oh my God, I'm so stressed. And they let this idea of stress, which really is just a smokescreen, quite honestly, for what you're not willing to deal with emotionally. You let that get in the way of actually truly resting and truly getting deep restorative sleep. It's free.
Mhm.
And if you're having a problem getting it, there are other things you can do to enhance it, to help it, to address why you're not sleeping. But sleeping is one of the best ways to heal so many, our adrenals, right? Our stress level, our cortisol levels. It gives you mental clarity. It allows your body to release fat and build muscle. It allows the body to have the immune system working for you while you're resting, not needing to use any of that energy, because your body will be really smart and utilize energy for whatever you need the most. So if you're resting, now the body can go handle some of the other things. So sleep would be the first one, and water would be the second one. There are so many people who drink a little bit of water and they think, oh, I drink water. But it's like you need at least half of your body weight in ounces of clean, fresh, alkaline water a day.
Mhm.
Mineral water would be great too, adding some minerals to your water. And we can go deeper into that. But so again, I know, super simple. I was like, oh, yeah. But are you doing it? How many people are not doing it? They're having several cups of coffee or caffeine a day. They're running and running and running. And they think, oh, but I have to.
Mhm.
You really don't. Because what happens, as I'm sure you've experienced, Mia, is that sometimes when you get a life diagnosis, everything changes.
It does. This is my second or third life diagnosis, different areas. And as far as the water, I do drink at least a gallon a day, and I've done that for 12 years because it's powerful. I mean, everything, if you have a cold, if you have the flu, guess what helps get rid of it out of your body? The water,
Yeah.
If your skin is feeling dry, guess what helps it? Water. It also helps our digestion. It's beautiful. I'm a big positive water person. You were talking about also about the diets and how people are affected, and that's their emotional state coming up, right? Not being able to handle things or being triggered.
We have a lot of addiction. Everyone has at least one addiction, soft addiction. Some people have multiple hard addictions. The difference would be hard addiction would be something like alcohol or a drug, that you have a substance that your body actually gets addicted to, that it's hard to wean off of. Tobacco is a hard drug, but it isn't, because your body can be off of it in 72 hours. It's the habit that we think, oh, I'm addicted to this thing. Well, here are some of the other addictions that we all have: control, emotional eating, workaholism, putting out fires. So and putting out fires for saving other people, being the rescuer for other people, right? So those are some of the: shopping, sex, technology. Like, can you put your phone down for a minute? Can you disconnect? Nobody needs you that badly, and if they do, they'll figure out how to find you. Like, we've lost the being in the moment, and so we keep spinning. And then what happens is we're ignoring our emotions. We don't know what's really going on for us because we're spinning, and we're like disconnected from our body giving us signals to let us know where we're off, where we're out of balance. So if you're out of balance and you're addicted to like staying in this whirlwind of whatever, to avoid that, which you don't even know that you're doing it sometimes, but if you just stop for a second and say, do I feel grounded? Do I feel balanced? And it doesn't mean that every moment of every day is like Zen. It just means that it's like a scale, that if you spend 6 hours with hard, like focused mental work and stress, that you spend 6 hours having fun. That would be another hack. I know it sounds super simple, but ask yourself, when is the last time I laughed hard? When is the last time I had so much joy that I lost myself in it because it was so fun, time stopped? I mean, isn't that what we're all striving for? We want to be healthy, we want to be successful, we want to have money, we want to have a relationship because we think we'll get that. But we can't get that until we are in alignment with that by having it first ourselves. It's not outside of you. And taking personal responsibility for where you are, not blaming everybody else for why you are where you are. Because again, remember, if you have a diagnosis, you get cancer tomorrow, oh, you're going to reevaluate every minute of your day and go, why do I do that? Well, why do you got to get cancer to reevaluate that? I'm telling you, reevaluate right now, right? But sometimes that's what people need.
Right.
If you're
or
a
it's
Virgo
something
moon,
trapped, or it's something trapped in you, even though it may be from, so mine is a flood of hormones. That's what caused mine when I went through menopause. But there's also a psychological issue too, well, not necessarily from childhood, someplace in our life. And so investigating that in any illness, or any discontent in our life really is very important. And I did discover mine, you know. It's funny because everybody's like on the spiritual realm here. Okay, so there's another diagnosis that you have to do. And I'm like, I'm aware of that. I have to figure that out, which I did. And yeah, it's incredible as we heal. And like you said, we can heal so quickly. You and I were talking about this before. It's really powerful. Healing is instantaneous. Now, instantaneous, you know, for some can mean 2 weeks, but literally instantaneous is on the spot. Once that connection is made and you see it a different way, you're changed. So it's really interesting, and I love this. The emotional state is so important in every level. So it's not going to come up just in eating. It's going to come up in relationships. It's going to come up in our work. It's going to come up with our money. It's going to come up with our kids, right? So it's really powerful to master your emotional state, build your emotional intelligence, if you want to call it that, and get to the place where you can deal with stuff. Because if you were to get cancer, what I've seen with a lot of women compared to me is, because of the work that I teach, which is the emotional intelligence and, you know, healing the emotions, the self-love part, I didn't go through a lot of the hyperventilation. I did go through my own version, but not like with other people, because I was able to talk myself down, to bring myself back to center. Have you witnessed that with people overall, you know, in life period, how their emotional state just takes them off course instead of being on course?
I see people's emotional state first. I go from what's the diagnosis or what's the problem and what is it you're not dealing with?
Mm-hmm.
Because and for a lot of men especially, they don't want to hear that because they're thinking emotions. What do you mean emotions? You know, it's not emotional. I have pain. I have back pain. I have shoulder pain. What do you mean it's emotional? It's not emotional. But if I would say, oh, it's stress related. Oh yeah, it's stress related. All of a sudden, like, well, what do you think stress is? Stress is emotion. Stress is caused by emotion. It's about a perception of something outside of yourself causing you to be a victim of circumstance and think you have to act in a certain way. So while there are a ton of physical remedies, ailments, helps, I'm always going to the emotional thing first because it's the thing that people run away from. And I've seen it happen all the time where somebody will manifest something. They will do the physical things to get rid of it, and then it'll manifest in another way later. And it's because you didn't do the work on, and sometimes it takes a couple times, and sometimes you never get it. Sometimes you'll leave the planet and you had no idea until you cross over and you're like, oh, that was what that was about. Okay. So, right. So, you know, you're getting a cue from your body about what's going on with you. And it matters what chakra it's in. It matters what part of your body it's in. It represents something. It's telling you something. And if you listen to it and you figure it out, what the message is for you, because the one thing I know for sure is that you can't run away from your emotions. They are with you all the time. And if you try, you will fail. They will eventually catch up with you. So creating internal peace, making peace with things, seeing things differently, having a different perspective, changing the meaning of some of the things and limiting beliefs that you have about your life, the world, your body, your relationships, your parents, your upbringing, whatever, to make it serve you on a different level is how we change, again, that epigenetic landscape of how your body responds to the physical things that you do. Because you can eat perfectly, do all the right things, and still be emotionally toxic and die of some disease that caused your body to shrivel up and give up. And again, we're going to die anyway, but it's like, how do we go? And, you know, is this my time?
And when?
So, right. And isn't it, you know, one of the doctors I've been working with, she was planning on dying. She's like, oh, I'm going to die. So let's just heal myself in the process. And then she healed herself completely and came out of it going, okay. Right. And she had cancer and her diagnosis was really bad. And even Eastern astrologers were like, you should be dead. So it was like kind of her trajectory of where she was going. And then she just surrendered to it and thought, well, now I'm going to heal my physical body and I'm going to do what I can to just be the best I can be on the way out. But it turned around. The whole thing turned around. And again, that's because of her willingness to sort of listen to her body and let it lead her.
Yeah. There's really a lot of power in the connection to self, right? On that journey, she discovered something even deeper that kept her here. One thing that it's slightly off topic, but doctors in general, at least in my case, they're still coming after me for surgery. And I'm like, my tumors are shrinking. They're 50% reduced. Leave me alone, you know? Why do you think that is? Just because of the education that they've gotten and nothing more? I mean,
Yes. I mean, their education is dictated by pharmaceutical companies. And so if
yeah.
natural healing doesn't make you any money, I'm not saying that I mean to say that all doctors are evil or don't want to learn, but you know, when you're sort of blind to the political side of Western medicine and how cancer will never go away, it's too big of a business. And there are cures. There have been for years. But again, you don't know about it because it doesn't make anyone else money. So they're not going to promote it. You're
Until you discover it through someone else. Yeah.
Right. You're not going to see an ad on television
Right.
for alkaline water or for taking your algae or like all the things that we know heal us. You know, there's not a big money in it for anybody. So no one's, and even if it was, you'd have to fight the pharmaceutical companies who run the media companies. So I think that is part of it. You know, again, I'm going to say that different levels of consciousness, some doctors go into being doctors because of the money. I'm not saying that means that they're mean people or they don't care about their clients, but the people that are true healers ask the questions, look at a structure and say, like, you know, Western medicine generally has only been around 200 years. I just came from an acupuncture appointment, which has been around for 2000 years, who treats the whole body no matter what the ailment is, versus in Western medicine, we're treating just your whatever the symptom is, but the symptom is caused by some other root. And if we're not looking at the root, guess what? It comes back. So I think that it's a combination of, you know, some people on a level of consciousness that went into the profession because, you know, in their lineage, it's the right thing to do. You become a doctor or a lawyer, or they wanted to make a certain amount of money, or they're really good at one part of their brain. They're really left brain, but they're not really right brain. And they're not connected to their intuition and they're not curious. And then there's the ones that evolve that are amazing doctors out there that have been curious from the beginning and have had to work, like Dr. Christian Northrup, who's been on my show a couple of times, right? She and I have the most in alignment of any doctor I've ever read about, seen, heard. And so she and I, during the show, I had to go, okay, here's how we're going to get to know each other really fast. I know you don't know me. Like I just listed all the commonalities. I'm like, okay, here's my astrology. What is yours? Doom. In 10 minutes, I'm like, she knows who I am. Okay, great. Cool. We have a language and there's a respect. So, but you know, someone like her, and there's many other doctors that are asking the deeper questions, that are researching how food. I mean, do you know that doctors don't have nutrition in their education? They
That's right.
Have one.
Right. And it's only, it's, hold on. I wrote this out because I did a health hack here and it's only 23.9 hours of nutrition. Isn't that ridiculous? That's why if a doctor tells you or says that food is not medicine, that eating well it doesn't matter, have your diet.
Run for the door.
Run for the door, literally. I said to my oncologist, I said, are you interested in any other form or just what you were taught? Because he's pretty young. He's probably barely 40 at the most. And he said, I only know what I'm taught. And I said, here's the book. Read it. This is what I've been studying, How to Starve Cancer. So it's interesting because I think that people like you and I and the rest of the world in our alignment of the way we live will help expand out, you know, certain doctors so that they can see that there's other ways. Now he says, take your poor man's chemo, do exactly what you're doing. I don't know how it's working, but it's a miracle. And I'm like, okay, because I have to see him just to make sure that I'm on track, but I'm on one medical pill that reduces the hormone flood, but everything else is holistic and natural. So it's pretty amazing, you know?
I think also because people have been taught to give complete respect and power over to doctors, they haven't questioned. I had a procedure a year ago that I kind of self-prescribed. So I sort of showed up and said, will you or won't you do this? And, you know, while she said I will, but it's not my first recommendation, you know, we disagreed up till the very last moment, just about most things. So it was one of those, and I said no I said no. I think that just like lawyers, doctors are taught to look for the worst possible case scenario and treat that. What we know with epigenetics is if you focus, and quantum physics, if you focus on the worst possible outcome, you're probably going to get the worst possible outcome. You literally create new neural pathways in your brain to recognize the worst possible outcome. I consider it malpractice. I think doctors should learn epigenetics and be very careful about how they present choices to their patients because they have a role in what manifests after they leave. If they've induced the fear of God in them, or if they've given them hope, or if they've actually given them a not neutral, because you can't really be neutral, but a real picture of what's going on, or if they've just given them the fear, which I think a lot of doctors give the people the fear because they don't see how it's possible to do anything else. So as far as they're concerned, this is all I see. And I told both doctors that I worked with, one said, "You scare me." She looked at me and said, "You scare me." And I said, "Now, isn't it possible that it goes like this and it goes like this and then it happens just perfectly?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "And that's how it's going to go." Now, she was younger than me. And then when I came back, she did the same thing your doctor did. She's like, "Okay, what do you want? Yep, do whatever you're doing. Keep doing it. It's working."
Yeah.
Because she's in the blinders.
Right. Right. Wow. This has been really amazing. You have a friend, and the time is running out. I'd love to keep you for another hour. You're just great. Maybe you'll come back on our next season. That would be really lovely.
Oh, of course. I have anything you think I can add value to, I'm happy to contribute.
Thank you. You have a free gift for everybody. Would you like to tell us what it is?
Sure. It's my second or third book. It's like they have two that came right after each other. So this is the third book, but the most recent, called The Invisible Fitness Formula: 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame.
Oh, beautiful.
And you can get that. Are you going to add a link? Do you want me to tell you a link?
It comes in the daily email, and that's where everybody knows that where they can find their free gift from you. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I have all the podcasts, which most of my podcasts are free also. So if you want even more information, the podcasts are free, but the book is the free gift that you can get without paying anything.
Yeah, it's lovely. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to have you on. I truly, truly enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mia. I appreciate you having me on, and happy to serve your community and anyone else who knows intuitively that there's more out there and that they can heal themselves naturally and empower their life in every way. So thank you for having me on.
So very important. Thank you for those words. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll see you in another episode of Health and Beauty Hacks. Bye. That was awesome.